If you can't rebuild a mechanic without looking it up, you didn't learn it, you just borrowed it from someone else's memory. So let's talk about my biggest mistake in game development and the biggest reason why beginners never finish their first game, and that's going to be tutorial hell. So let's first understand what tutorial hell in game development really is, and what is required for us to actually learn game development the right way. So the thing with tutorial hell is not it's some problem with us, it's like not us being stupid or something, which it might feel like when you try to rebuild something from memory and you can't do it. You just have a lack of knowledge about how relearning actually works. So let me tell you, because in reality, if you actually knew how you were going to learn, you should realistically be able to finish your first game within only 60 days of starting. Even though it might be a small and bad game, like sure, that's not the point that it's going to be an awesome game, but very realistically, you could finish a small game that you didn't overrely on tutorials, AI for, within only 60 days. And that's at least what I promise you inside of Smartini, that you go from stuck in tutorials to a finished release game in only 6 days. So it's very realistic when you just have a path and you know what you're going to do, and you actually know how we're going to learn instead. So even though you could actually realistically finish your first game within only 60 days, people, including me, are just stuck in tutorial hell for years. And why is that? Like personally, I was stuck in tutorial hell for years. I just watched these full tutorials, follow along for like multiple hours. There was like multiple playlists with like hours of video, and I would just follow along on my screen. I didn't really understand what they were doing. I could recognize, I could follow along. I didn't really understand it. And if you asked me like an hour later, I wouldn't be able to rebuild it from memory or even explain what it did. It was like I just followed along because it was like at the front of my brain. But when we're watching tutorials, we don't really remember the things that we watch. So that's a problem. For me personally, I spent years just stuck in this tutorial hell following along, and I even quit game development for multiple years because I just felt stupid, felt like it wasn't for me, and I couldn't achieve anything because I was just stuck in tutorials. I didn't know how to learn. Before I came back and I figured out the real way we're actually going to learn in game development and basically in all aspects of life. But in game development, this thing I'm going to tell you now is going to be especially important. And the thing that made me finally release my first game and actually made me learn, and it's actually required for learning, is going to be that you need struggle. To actually learn something, we need to struggle with that thing. You can probably imagine why that is. Well, why would our brain remember something when something is easy? Well, it doesn't need to, because the brain is just used to you having this easy solution that you can always go to. So there's no point of your brain to like allocate its precious memory and its precious energy to actually remember these things when you just have this easy solution like tutorials, AI guides, for example. But rather, if things were hard, your brain would think the opposite. It would think, well, this thing was super hard, I need to remember this so that I don't encounter this hard problem again in the future. And because it's going to be hard, you force your brain to think, you force yourself to get feedback when you just follow along a tutorial. You don't get any feedback because there's literally a step-by-step plan that you follow, and there's no like mistakes you can make unless like click a wrong button or like forget the semicolon or whatever. There's no like mistakes or feedback that you get from tutorials because there's literally a step-by-step plan that you just follow. So tutorials, that's like the easiest thing that we can possibly do to learn. And in general, like listening to the teacher also, when you learn math, for example, that's also the easiest thing that we can do. And you don't learn anything when you just listen to the teacher. When you, for example, learned math in school, you didn't learn math and how to solve these math problems when you just listen to the teacher. Sure, you got the recognition from actually like the process of solving the math problem, but actually solving the math problem, like the skill in your brain, like the problem solving skill in your brain, the math skill, you didn't gain that from just listening to the teacher. You actually got that from actually solving and struggling with these math problems yourself. Because that's when you get feedback, that's when your brain actually is active. When you watch these tutorials, your brain is just an autopilot, your brain just sleeps. I'm sure like your girlfriend, your mom, your wife could follow along a Unity tutorial. There's no skill involved, it's so easy. And because of that, it's so easy, your brain has literally no incentive to store it in your brain. And I don't really need to tell you anymore, because you already know this. If I just ask you, for example, the last time that you did something where you just followed the instructions outside of game development, because you already know that game development, it doesn't work to just follow instructions, because if it did, then you would release your first game by now. But think outside of game development, think of something you did where you just followed the instructions and you didn't like struggle with the thing, you just followed the instructions. It can be whatever. Well, if you look back at that thing, you aren't going to remember it and be able to do it afterwards. For me, for example, an example that I come up with right now is when I cook with my girlfriend, I can follow along, I can help her like do the ingredients, I can do the steps because she literally tells me what to do. But my brain is on autopilot, so I don't get any feedback, I don't struggle with anything. So even though I did it when she actually just told me what to do, and I actually did it myself, but I didn't struggle with the thing, I'm not going to remember how to do it myself. So if I were to like bake or cook the same thing that we did, when she told me the instructions, I wouldn't be able to remember how to do it. Like, hopefully you get my point. Like, and also like these people that make tutorials, they haven't even released. The next time you watch a game dev video, if you really want to after this video, hopefully you don't, but if you're going to watch a game development tutorial video, probably 50% they haven't even released a single game. They've just made a game jam. Be conscious of this the next time you watch a game dev YouTuber. Chances are they've never released a single game. So that's awesome that you understand, but how do we actually use struggle practically to actually learn game development? Like, sure, I can tell you, okay, just go struggle, goodbye, end the video, buy Smartini, whatever. But that's actually not what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the practical step-by-step guide on how you're going to use struggle in learning game development so that you can actually and finally start making progress. I promise you, if you do this, even though it's going to be harder than watching tutorials because you need to think like we talked about, that's the point. This is the only way you're actually going to learn. So if you actually want to learn, don't just waste time, you're going to do this. So to implement this struggle practically in game development, I've made what I call the struggle build repeat framework. I'm going to break it down to you like how this struggle build repeat framework works very practically, so you know like exactly what you're going to do. And the general overview of the struggle build repeat framework is that we're going to use active learning, where we learn by doing, and we're going to have a desirable difficulty to everything that we do. So when I say struggle, I'm not saying like, okay, make GTA 6 and then that's the struggle, that's awesome. That's going to be too hard for us. So we don't want it to be like that hard. We want to do something that's just above our skill level, and that's what we're going to call a desirable difficulty. So when you struggle, you always want to do something that's just one step above what you think you can do. So to follow this, I assume that you already have like a general recognition and you already watched tutorials or like an introduction video to your game engine before. If not, then obviously just go ahead, watch a introduction video so you recognize the development process and like basic things. But for 99% of you guys, you already watched hours of tutorials before, so this isn't going to apply to you. So let me tell you how we're going to apply this struggle build repeat framework practically. The first thing I want you to do is just pick a mechanic that you can remember and you want to implement. So set a very, very easy goal. Just have a desirable difficulty. You might not think you can do anything, but try to remember something from these videos. Even though it's going to be hard, try to remember it and try to experiment your way through actually achieving that very easy results and the goals that you set. So for example, if you have watched like a few hours of tutorials before, try to just remember a very simple mechanic, like for example, move the player constantly, no input, no anything, just move the player constantly. That's going to be like 2 lines of code in Unity. Just do that and try to experiment your way through finding the solution. So right now you might not know how to do it, but just try to experiment, try to use the IDE as your guide, and it should be hard. You should think, well, I don't know how to do this, I don't know where to start. Just open IDE, try to write some things, try to remember some things that you did. So if you just do this long enough, you just struggle long enough, you're probably going to think, well, I need to move the position to move the player, obviously. So where does the position lie? Well, it's on the transform component. So what happens if I write transform? Oh, I can write transform.position, and then you can move that position. Like if you just struggle with the thing, you are going to find the solution. You just need to struggle long enough. So to summarize the struggle, just pick one very simple mechanic that you think you can do. Can be just a few lines of code, and then just struggle your way through actually finding the solution to that thing. Can be very, very simple things. Then if you generally can't figure the solution out, you are like very deep in tutorial hell, you can't do anything, well, that's going to be completely fine. What you're going to do then, or if you are doing something and you struggle for like 20 minutes, you can find the solution either way. What you're going to do then is you're going to go on Google and you're going to Google for the specific solution. You're not going to Google for the entire mechanic, you're just going to Google for the specific thing that you struggle with. So instead of thinking, okay, I'm going to make this entire movement system, just break it down into smaller pieces. So instead of searching how to make this entire movement system, search for how do I get player input to move the player. And then I would just want you to repeat this process, build small mechanics, build upon this mechanic, try to just build something with it. You can just experiment, that's the thing here. We're just going to experiment, not make an entire game, just experiment, try to learn. That's going to be our goal here. So try to just expand as much as possible on this project and try to have this desirable difficulty that we talked about. So when you expand, try to do something that just above your skill level. And if you set the goal, you experiment, struggle for 20 minutes, can't figure it out, do what I told you with the Google. Don't use AI tutorials, use Google, because that's going to be like the hardest struggle thing that we can do, while you're also going to find the solution, because you can find things with Google, it's just not going to be as easy. So I kind of told this, but the repeat is basically repeat this until you have a simple playable experience or a simple full mechanic. So if you just follow this struggle, build, repeat framework, that's going to be awesome for your learning. You're going to learn so much. And I'm so excited for you learning this. But I want to tell you, if you want a full step-by-step path to releasing your first game in only 60 days, that's built upon this struggle, build, repeat framework. I'm going to walk you through everything where you're stuck in tutorials, all the way through planning and releasing your first game in only 60 days. That's a personal guarantee I'll give to you. If you want that and you just want to guarantee that you're going to release and make it as easy and fast as humanly possible, then it's Smartini with the first link in the description. And I think it's going to be very, very helpful for you. Smartini is basically everything that I wish I had when I was in a similar position as you. And I spent a lot of time figuring all these things out, figuring all the mistakes that you can make when you make your first game out. I spent a lot of time and effort on these things, so I made Smartini to be everything that I wish I had when I was in a similar position as you. So I think it's going to be a great deal if you want to become a game developer and release your first game. Either way, thank you so much for watching.